Good morning, Gap Art Club. This is my debut filmmaking career. Sadly, only my hands will feature in this. I wanted to show you how to make papers that might be used for future painting projects. This is a pretty simple task, but quite fun to be free and not to stress about the results too much. So let's talk about the materials. Firstly, we've got a range of different papers you can use. None of them can have to be expensive in any sense of the word. So, for instance, some of the things I've just gathered here are papers that are generally reasonably strong, but not too thick, because when you apply them to your paint, you don't want the paper to be showing up too much. So when you stick them down, you want to be able to paint around them and try and pretend they're part of the paint rather than additions to the picture. So here we've got some greaseproof paper here that's part of an old mat that I picked up in a charity shop. Here is some more kitchen-based paper that I just found in my drawer. I haven't used it before, so it'd be quite interesting to see how it works. It's got a bit of a texture on it, so I thought it was quite fun. Baking paper. This is just part of an old catalogue that comes through the door. These are quite nice, actually, because they're nice and thin and matte, and they take to acrylic paint very well. This is a bit of a cartridge paper that I've torn off a bit of a life drawing disaster of mine. And then just a bit of newspaper, and then we've got just ordinary computer paper underneath. I'm scribbling on that as time goes on. So those aren't all the papers you can use. You can use any number of different things, but what I'm trying to point out is that they don't have to be at all expensive. So let's move on to paints. I'm largely going to be using acrylic paints in this exercise. Quinacridone Gold and Phthalo Blue are the two paints I've chosen. I've chosen a warm paint and a cool paint. They are complementary, and by that I mean that they're opposite each other on the colour wheel that we did study last year. And this paint here is pretty transparent, is a nice colour for mixing, because it's quite a strong colour, but it's has properties that allow it to be thinned down. I'm going to mix these with Payne's Grey and white in varying degrees, and then I have something that I've found very useful in mixed media, which is a pouring medium. Now this helps to thin out the acrylic paint so that it makes a very transparent paint. That's quite nice if you want the underneath print or colour to show through, and allows you to layer up. But I'll show you that as we go through. Then we have inks. You don't have to use inks, or you don't have to use paint. You can use one or the other, or both. And I've broadly chosen colours that will tone with the colours I've already got. I might do a bit of mixing to get more of an orangey yellow here, and might tone down that phthalo blue with a bit of green, but anyway, we'll see. Then we have something I've discovered recently that I'm very keen on, which are acrylic markers. They can be quite expensive if you buy them in the art shop, but I've discovered a few on Amazon online, a few sets that are pretty good actually, and they're much cheaper. So for these you have to shake them up, they've got a little ball inside, gets the paint moving, mixed up, and then just give it a little pump. And as you can see, it looks pretty much like a normal marker there, but it does have nice qualities when you use them on top of acrylic paints. So that's acrylic markers, and I've got these things called Inktense sticks. They are dissolvable in water, so they're quite nice from that point of view. Then we have oil pastels. You probably know that they resist paint, so they're a great asset if you're trying to create some layers. And here I've just got some watercolour paints, watercolour pencils. Probably don't use those an awful lot because with acrylics they tend to get a bit, they're a bit wishy-washy. Now that's broadly the colours that I'm going to be using. You don't have to have all of those, of course, and you can mix and match, find felt pens, whatever else you've got, crayons, wax crayons, anything in your art supplies. But all of the different processes we're going to be doing fall into basically two categories, and that is scraping off the paint with tools. So there we've got a palette knife, then calligraphy bamboo dip pen, just a stick from the garden, that's my favourite stick, a broken lolly stick there, a bit of watercolour paper or card, and a little sponge I use for stenciling, which is I found in a pound shop, and there's about 8 of those in one pack. So that's scraping off, and then adding to with stencils. There we've got a little lino cut print of a leaf, bubble wrap, cling film, anything that can imprint a pattern. I have actually used, was putting on some makeup the other day and found my makeup container had a really nice pattern on the lid, so I used that the other day. That was quite pleased with. So you just have to be inventive. Look for things around the house that you can create some pattern with. Another great one, of course, is the trusted toothbrush that you can make splattery patterns with. So this is all about experimentation, and you don't need to have fantastic raw materials to make some fun things. So before I finish this little video, I just want to show you some papers that I have painted up with one layer just to get the ball rolling, and then I'm going to be creating some pattern on top of these. So this is just a piece of printer paper. That was my map painted over with some transparent gold. This was part of an old painting of mine. Again, you can see the range of colours. It's not necessarily what you'd expect. This is the blue in its purest form, and this is the blue mixed with some of the gold and with, let me think, that was probably mixed with a bit of white as well. This is newspaper. Kept some of the print showing through so that we can get some interesting effects. This is paper from my drawer. This is the other part of computer paper I use. I use quite a lot of white with the blue, a little bit of gold to make that lovely pastel-y shade. Then there's the gold on its own with the transparency medium so that you can see part of a drawing I had underneath. And then I thought, wow, that's made quite a nice little pattern, all those bits of paintings that I've just used that paper to lean on. So that's my final piece. So in the next video, I'll be showing you how to create pattern on top of those.